And the phenomenon today that we're investigating is something called bystander intervention. Bystander intervention is the tendency for a bystander, a person, to intervene or come to the aid of someone who seems to be in trouble, seems to need help. Now, research on this phenomenon started about 40 years ago, and it was triggered by a particular incident that actually took place in New York City. And it's a well-known one, and it appears in psychology textbooks ever since that time. In fact, it's in yours, and eventually you'll read about it. In this particular case, a young woman was murdered on the street in New York City. It's a very gruesome murder in which she was stabbed. The assailant actually left and came back later, and she was still alive, and he then eventually stabbed her and killed her. This was witnessed in one way, shape, or form by at least 30 individuals. And not a single person took any action to help. So today what we'd like to do is to explore this phenomenon, and by the end of the class period, leave with a better understanding, one, of the factors that influence bystanders to come to the aid of strangers. As we're doing this, the actual activity that you're involved in this morning is in some ways a little bit like what psychologists would do when they're looking at this phenomenon. And what we are hoping will happen, what we'd like to happen, is that you begin to think about the multiple factors, the kinds of things, individual factors in the situation or among people that might trigger somebody to take action and come to the aid of somebody else, or what might inhibit them from that. So the idea today is you'll start out in this class period by reviewing the pretest that you've already done. I gave you 4 scenarios that depicted somebody in need of help. You've already produced your own ideas about why people would help or not help in that situation. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to compare notes in your group.
Late at night, a man climbs on a railing of a bridge high above the river. He sits on the railing, muttering things to himself. A pedestrian walking on the bridge notices the man.
And ours is the same, except it's, a crowd begins to gather.
Ours is in the middle of the day.
Oh yeah, in the middle of the day.
Lots of differences. Yeah, but we still have the guy muttering on the bridge.
You're in a crowd, you might like.
Okay.
Factor is
I think that tells
time of day and also number of people.
I think the timer's phone number.
I think time would be a really big one for this one again, because this is probably a situation that's going to take a lot of time. Because if someone, most likely, this isn't just someone, I mean, it might be someone just looking or whatever, but it's probably someone who's thinking about committing suicide or something. And a lot of people just don't want to get involved with that because it'll probably be a huge time commitment. It's not like you can just be like, oh, hey, and then walk off. You probably have to sit there and like convince them. So I think time would be really big because people don't want to take the time they're not going to help.
Yeah.
I have faith in humans.
I think a really big factor in all of it is for the person who's going to help, it just depends on how they were raised. It's like if you were raised to help people, a lot of times factors aren't going to apply as much. But to as a person who it doesn't matter as much, the factors are going to apply.
Like the old woman one especially, there's no way that if I saw some old person or older, there's no way that and I saw she needed help, I would be able to go past her.
Yeah.
So guilty.
Then let me ask you this. The reason I'm here is I just want to check in to see what kinds of categories you're producing initially. So tell me this, when you looked at the scenarios themselves and made comparisons between the 2 versions, what were the categories that you identified?
went for a couple of months, but I don't think I was able to include over. There's one thing that I need to
What's up, Heights? Got it? Not much. Great.
I guess in the sex or gender category, we determined that a woman is more likely to help another woman, whereas she wouldn't help a man, and a man is more likely to help a woman regardless of age as well.
Okay, so you talk about gender not just of the victim, but also
Of the,
as well.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, like in the age category, people are more likely to help the elderly regardless of gender, and they're more like men are more likely to help a younger woman.
Okay. Let me jump down to one that I just spotted. What is this one?
We just decided there's like a self-advantage or motivation category where, like, what the bystander's going to gain out of the experience, like if they're going to gain advanced social status or if they're going to gain a personal sense of self-worth.
What about this one? Number of bystanders. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you're in a large group of people, you're probably going to be more likely to think that someone else is going to help. So you might not help, but if you're by yourself, you know you're the only one around, so you're probably going to help the person in need.
Any other groups talk about that one?